Hey everybody, welcome back to another coffee talk. This is me talking about sugar and its effects on the mind and also the body. We have like a pretty good understanding of how sugar affects our bodies, but there seems to be more of a awareness happening lately for the effects on the mind. Before I get into it, I just wanted to go ahead and say a few things about the channel. I'm celebrating my 1,000 subscribers. So, however I make of it. Thanks anyway. I'm up to 1,070 subscribers now, so that's pretty cool. I honestly didn't think that it would get this far. I kind of knew that I would. It's kind of like when I was thinking about if I was going to graduate fucking high school. I didn't exactly believe it, but I always kind of knew that I would. You know what I mean? So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for all the new subscribers. I think I can repeat myself plenty of times on this shit. So I guess I'm just gonna jump right into it. A little bit of background. I've been on kind of a journey dietarily the last couple of years. I've been on a changing of my diet and changing my outlook on life, partially because of it, partially because of what it's done to my body and what it's done to my brain and the way it's kind of balanced my mood out. As you may know from my other videos, I've lost like 35 pounds. When I first started this YouTube channel, I wasn't in that healthy of a space, mentally or physically. So I basically one day I just decided that, you know what, fuck this. I'm tired of feeling sick. I'm tired of feeling tired. I'm tired of feeling, like I've got all this extra weight on me that I'm just carrying around, and I'm just fucking sick of it. And not to mention, I was so fucking depressed that I didn't even really realize it. I didn't really even realize, because I have a history of depression and anxiety, all this shit, the whole fucking list, that I was diagnosed with when I was a kid. Really, I think most of it's attributed to me just being a young man, developing. But really, this last year or so, I've been really on a roll of trying to, how do I put it? Like almost like vehemently trying to improve my life. Like, I don't know, taking one thing and it's like, the weight loss thing. Okay, I got down to 175 pounds. Okay, that was my goal weight, which was very difficult. As any of you know that have struggled with weight loss and all that stuff, it's not easy. It's very fucking hard. So I'd get that done. Then I'm like, okay, well, what else do I need to work on? So I've been basically, the farther away I get from drinking, it's been almost 4 years now. This July 21st, 2018, it will be 4 years of me being sober. Besides the occasional accidental fucking, eating weed or something like that, it just sends me off into the fucking stratosphere. But anyway, so basically where I started was I was doing some reading. Obviously, you do a lot of research in these situations. I was like, I came across this study that the human body functions optimally on 25 milligrams or less of sugar a day. So I started there. Actually, I started with, okay, well, that's a reasonable goal to get through the day. 25 milligrams of sugar, which is half of a Mountain Dew, for reference. I know people who chug those motherfuckers down. So started there, and I was like, all right, I can do that. And then after a while, it was you know what? I have hypoglycemia. I have struggled with that. I've struggled with my blood sugar levels, so I decided to cut even further down on sugar, just gradually down. So that helped, and then I started to do a little more research, or listen to Joe Rogan podcast, and basically him and Dr. Rhonda Patrick at first opened my eyes to this whole new level that I could get to. I was sitting at I think I was sitting at 185, and I was working out pretty regularly, but I was just not getting the results I wanted. It was like there was this extra little fucking bit of weight that was still sitting there, and I was trying to eat reasonably well. So I had discovered the ketogenic diet, started that. I went a month really strict. It was really tough after being used to eating a lot of rice and pasta and bread and all that stuff. There was a bit there where I was eating sandwiches every day. I love a good sandwich. It was very tough at first. The first couple weeks took me a while to get fat adapted, which is your body starts to run on fats instead of sugars. And first of all, that weight at extra 10 pounds, first week, 2 weeks, that 10 pounds just dropped right off. Right now I'm actually working on getting to my third stint, I guess, of trying to lose even more weight. Healthily though, if I can't get below 170, then I'll just call it good. I mean, I'm pretty content right now with at least how I'm feeling. But there could always be more. There's always room for improvement. There's no time when you're fucking done or anything, So anyway, so yeah, I got obsessed with nutrition. Just totally obsessed with it. And one thing I noticed was that my mood was kind of equalizing a little bit. It was like it wasn't even something that I had considered, my mood. Being a person that has struggled with depression, I thought that I just kind of grew out of it. But then you fall off the wagon, and it turns out when you switch to a low carb diet, when you switch to being fat adapted, you tend to be this is also a point to be taken carefully. You lose your tolerance a bit. So I'll go a few weeks without eating any sugar or grains or anything like that, and then after that I'm way more affected by it than I was before, obviously, because I'm not as used to it. But I really did notice, because I was doing really good on the diet. I was staying on, I was staying at 30 to 50 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is, the ketogenic diet is like supposed to be less than 100 or something like that, which is a lot. I mean, when you're eating pretty clean, 100 grams of carbohydrates is a lot of it's a lot of food, really. And some people just run better, on less. A few weeks ago I fell off because it was my birthday, and I went to this place that serves a delicious bowl of ramen, and I also love bacon cheeseburgers. So what I did was I got a bowl of ramen, big bowl, and a bacon cheeseburger, and fries, and ice cream, and I destroyed all of it. I fucking obliterated it, and it was glorious. It was delicious. It was fucking good. But then I noticed gradually the next few days afterwards, especially since I was more sensitive, and I just basically fell right off the wagon from then. And right after that, it was the most terrifying bit of depression that I had experienced since I was like a teenager. It was really scary because like you feel this cloud coming over you. Depression is really weird like that, where it may not even be triggered by anything. It's what some people don't realize, that don't experience that, is it is like a demon. It's like something that comes over you and just, I mean, some people can push through it. Like I'm a pretty tough person. At least I'd like to say that I am. And it was really scary. Not to not be a man and admit that I'm scared of something, but being scared of some of the shit that goes on inside of your psyche it can be a real thing. It can be a real fucking thing. So, and I had already been studying for a little while about diet and mood and depression. So I'm back on the wagon right now, and it was actually an interesting experiment to undergo, because I went from feeling really good for the most part to feeling absolutely terrible. Like, not just physically. I mean, I gained like another 5 pounds after that few days. I've worked most of that off now. I mean, like I was saying, that initial 10 pounds is going to be water weight. It's going to be mainly water weight, and then after that it's fat, basically, when you burn. I've been affected by people, and I don't know how I'm going to be. I mean, let's face it, not many people are going to watch this video. Through my life recently, I have been affected by people like Michaela Peterson. She's Jordan Peterson's daughter, and she had, if you don't know who she is, she struggled with autoimmune disorders and arthritis through her whole life, and basically, to keep a long story short, she had realized that a lot of her problems had come from carbohydrate sensitivity. I mean, it's not just gluten anymore. It's carbohydrates, which is, if you know anything about nutrition, the carbohydrates are sugars. There's complex sugars, which are like carbohydrates that you would see in bread and rice, stuff like that. The refined carbohydrates, the real dangerous ones are the straight up sugars, like you see in your barbecue sauce and your soda pop, all that shit. Anyway, she basically cut, through process of elimination, cut her entire diet all the way down to steak, just beef. All she eats is beef. And her symptoms went away. This is chronic fatigue, chronic depression. Her whole goddamn life. I mean, her arthritis, all these autoimmune disorders. She's had her hips. What was it? She had anyway, she had 40 joints that were affected by this disorder, and she had to have like her hips, both of her hips replaced or something like that. And she's only like 29, 30, something like that. So her body was basically killing itself. But went down. She cut out everything but meat, and that's they call it the carnivore diet now. But hers is a very strict version of it. So it may sound crazy, and it is. And I have no intention of going fully into the carnivore diet because I don't need to. But I've made these connections through my research, through seeing the amazing things that this has done for this young woman, and also her parents, Jordan Peterson, and obviously, and she's convinced them to go on the diet, and they're seeing excellent results. Her mom's arthritis, I think, has gone completely away because of it. That's a real extreme case, and I'm not even making a case for a carnivore diet. Once again, because very few people probably need to do that. So anyway, I'm making the connections because when I'm not eating sugar and I'm staying completely away from processed carbohydrates, sugar, refined sugar, bread, pasta, all that shit, my quality of life is amazing. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but I've seen an insane difference in my mood, my energy levels. I've actually put down. I went through yesterday, and I kind of wrote down all these points that I wanted, because turns out I wanted to do this video months ago, but it turns out that I had to do a lot of thinking before I did this, and I'm sorry if this video is too long. It's probably not as interesting to very many of you, but this is a very important subject to me, and if I help one person, then it'll make all the difference to me. So it's my YouTube channel. I can do whatever the fuck I want on this thing. So we have depression. So this is my first bullet point. When you're talking about depression, we all kind of have a familiarity, at least, with depression. Like people we know, we all know someone who's struggling with depression. Most people do. Most people don't even know that they're depressed. It'll be like when a few years ago, I would get depressed for a week, and I didn't know why, I didn't even know that I was, and I'd be like, oh wait, I'm depressed. So the depression and anxiety, they don't go hand in hand, but they're related to each other, at least for me. So when I'm eating clean, this is an amazing thing that I've discovered on this is, I mean, it's probably not me discovering it, but it's me discovering it for myself. When I'm eating clean, when I'm eating basically mostly meat and veg, my depression symptoms go away. It's like, I mean, I think, you know, I've attributed this to just a sensitivity to carbohydrates even since I was a little kid. And, you know, obviously when you're a little kid, a lot of the little kids have a carbohydrate-rich diet. You know, I loved French fries when I was a kid, my chicken nuggies, bread. I would eat Eggo waffles like every day, you know? And it's no wonder that on top of all the emotional issues I was going through, like such as the loss of my dad and my best friend, I was a troubled youth. I mean, I was on the list, you know, in my county. And I can't help but wonder what, how my life would have been different, and my school career would have been different if I was to change my diet, and, you know, if I had my diet maybe be more strict. Anyway, I've gone off. The depression symptoms, it's like there's a door. Sorry, this new mic. The depression symptoms, it's like a door opening when my diet goes to shit. It's like a door opening up. When my diet is good, the door to the depression doesn't even open. My mind doesn't even give it the fucking time of day. But the second I go back, I'm eating fucking Oreos or something like that, which are good. Oh my God, they're so good. But I'm finding it less and less worth it to do it, because my brain just involuntarily has these fucking crazy thoughts. Like, shit, like, where the fuck did that come from, man? Like, you know, these violent suicidal thoughts and shit like that. But as soon as I switch back, as soon as I get my diet straight and the bloating in my gut down, it goes away. And I can't explain it really. I don't know what to make of it, but that's what it is. That's how it is. Moving on to anxiety. Anxiety and a feeling of doom. When you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh my God, the world is like, you know, it's out there and it sucks, and I don't want to associate with it. That just doesn't even happen in the morning when I'm eating clean, when I'm lowest possible on carbohydrates. Like I've said, you know, when I wake up in the morning, usually I'll make bacon and eggs, no carbs. At lunchtime, lately I've been doing just a couple pieces of chicken. And at dinner time, I'll have usually a steak and maybe a little bit of salad. And that's it for the day. And that's all I need. Before, I would get, you know, hypoglycemic, and I'd have to eat 5 or 6 times a day, which is fucking annoying, by the way. Anyway, the anxiety, it's still kind of there because I'm kind of an anxious person. I'm kind of a conscientious person, maybe sometimes too much. I run a business. I have a relationship to manage. You know, got bills to pay. I think we're all, especially us 20-somethings that are trying to get our lives together, we all struggle with anxiety, I think. And I think that some rate of anxiety is perfectly normal, but when it comes to the point of I'm so anxious I want to kill myself, and that's when it sucks. But then again, I cut out sugar and processed carbs. I'm pretty content. I'm just sitting there like, when I was younger, I would try to when I was a little bit younger, I would try to duplicate the feeling that I had when I was younger, when I was like 14, 15, where I was so sharp and like focused and way more in touch with myself. But that was before I started drinking, and the drinking thing took me back a lot. Drinking a lot, and you'll see if you see my 3-year sober video, you'll get more of a look on the story of that. I'm not going to go fully into that, but really it put this wall in front of my eyes. My mood, that kind of goes with all that. Depression, anxiety, this feeling of doom. My mood, I'm also kind of an angry person, but I find it way more manageable, again, when I'm eating clean. My mood levels out. I'm more compassionate to others because I'm not fatigued from this weird inflammation you get from the sugar, and it doesn't take long at all to notice an increase in inflammation because of the sugar. My irritability, I'm still working on my overall irritability, like, especially when it comes to interpersonal relationships, like my girlfriend. That's just something that I think I need to work on for myself, but my mood really does start to level out. Like that feeling I was talking to you about when I was a teenager, and I felt way more focused and content, it seemed. I mean, I was still going through some really rough shit back then. Now I'm getting to the point where I think that I've surpassed that. At least I know that I've felt it. Temporarily. So that's how I know I'm on the right track. Contentment. There's a lot of the time I'll long for this feeling, like when I'm driving my truck. I love my truck. It's an old piece of shit and it's loud. But I'll be listening to some really cool music, and I'll just feel this overwhelming sense of love and warmth, and that goes away if I'm not eating clean. That doesn't happen, really. It's because that depression takes over. I don't know if I'm going over these points too fast or too slow, if I'm repeating myself, if I'm saying too much. Oh well, this is how it's coming out. Let's see, brain fog, memory, focus. My brain fogging, I've had this struggle through my whole life, is this kind of just lack of focus, and today I'm feeling a little bit of it because I didn't sleep very much last night. I only slept like 3 hours last night, but that's fine. I'm actually, because I've ate pretty damn clean this week. I've really been trying to lock it down because I'm terrified of getting depressed again. My brain fog, my focus is just like when I'm well slept and I'm well fed, good fats and proteins. I have like laser focus. I've always had trouble with memory. I think partially because I'm a guy, and us guys are dumb. But my memory is a lot better. I attribute it to the fact that if my girlfriend or somebody asks me to do something for them, I'll remember to do it way more than I used to. And that's huge for me. That's big for my self-esteem, because if I don't remember something, if I promise something and I don't keep that promise, then nobody beats myself up more than me. And because I'm able to keep myself together a little better, then it just kind of stacks up, you know. My mood is way more improved, because it's like, hey, look, you remembered to do that. That's really cool. I'm fucking, you know, proud of you. That's really cool. Obviously, my energy levels. Next bullet point down. Yeah, my energy it's far above where it was. I think partially because I try to work out as much as I can. I'm still working on sleeping well enough as I drink my coffee. Yeah, so when I first quit drinking, another quick one. When I first quit drinking, I could not keep up. I still have friends today that drink and go out to bars. I could not keep up when I'd go out with my friends and stuff. So I would have to take in a huge amount of caffeine and sugar just to keep up. And partially because I was having withdrawal symptoms, because I was accustomed to drinking hard alcohol, which is loaded with sugar. You know, beer is obviously lots of carbohydrates, which translates to sugar. So that was something that I dealt with for a long time, something that I struggled with and it took a long time to adjust to not having that intake, and not being able to keep up at parties and stuff. But nowadays, it seems, I don't know if maybe it's just because I'm getting old and so are my friends that are still drinking. I find that now, since I've been more healthy in my body and my mind, that my friends can't keep up with me in certain situations. Even if I've had less sleep, I've noticed that I'm able to stay alert and hold conversations, and, you know, have the desire to stay up or not, or, you know, have more focus, I guess. And it's just, I thought it was an interesting turnaround that I'm having to at some point say, okay, it's time to stop, because I have too much energy for the people that I'm around. It's something that took me a while to notice, but it's also really cool, because I've never been a high energy person, really. I work on responsibility, so that kind of goes with having enough energy to withhold those responsibilities. But anyway, another point I've made here is balance of carbs for a workout. This is an interesting one, because everybody has a different body. Everybody has different goals for their fitness, if their goal is fitness. And if you're like a bodybuilder, you want to be taking in more carbohydrates than someone who's, you know, someone who's just like someone who works in an office and doesn't work out. I mean, not that people in offices don't work out, but you know, if you're someone who's trying to really build a lot of muscle, it would be possibly in your best interest to keep at least in the carbohydrates in the form of vegetables. That's, I don't know, it's kind of, so it's one of those things, because there are people that that have really clean diets and only eat meat and vegetables, and they're still able to build muscle. It's said that with the intake of fats, you're getting more, and cholesterol, you're able to, cholesterol is basically the building blocks of life. And I'm not an expert in this, but it is something to take into account. I've also noticed that sometimes during a workout, and if I've had like weird timing on a workout, I won't have as much gas in the tank sometimes. So I guess that's just something to take into account. Moving on, gas, digestion, bowel movements, the nitty gritty. So once again, if I'm eating clean, and not eating too much too, that's something to take into account. My gas, I don't get gassy at all. Like, if I'm eating like just meats and vegetables, especially, it's funny in correlation with Michaela Peterson, she notes that she doesn't have any kind of gastrointestinal issues at all. Whereas when you eat vegetables are a lot harder to digest than meat, contrary to popular belief. If I'm eating the littlest amount of vegetables that I can, just to get that little bit of fiber, that turns out maybe you don't need as much as we thought. Sometimes I'll take in a little bit of carbohydrates in the form of vegetables just to help me out with my, with my recovery and my workouts. And also I like vegetables. But the gas pain, all that stuff, it doesn't happen. And contrary to popular belief, because everyone thinks that meat is like terrible for your digestion, that it'll cause ulcers and all this stuff, that's all complete bullshit. What are you eating with the meat? Is beef gonna cause cancer? No, that's complete fucking bullshit. That's a lie you've been told. What are people eating with the meat? What are your lifestyle choices? Are you doing fucking cocaine? These are things to take into fucking account. When they do these studies that are seemingly biased, in my opinion, they don't take that shit into account. So until we have a study, which Michaela Peterson is trying to put together, of people that are eating clean and predominantly meat, it's going to be a tough, I don't know, for the next 20, 30 years it might take to get some real science on a lot of this stuff. That's the trouble with it. You try to tell people about cutting out bread and shit like that. People get very defensive because bread is fucking delicious. So anyway, digestion. I've always had digestion problems. At least from when I was a little kid, I guess teachers would note, because I was under a special, troubled youth watch thing. I don't know what they call it. It's basically they analyze your behavior for a series of years. I was noted as complaining that I had bad digestion issues. I'd have tummy aches and stuff like that. But again, if I'm eating clean, that stuff doesn't happen. I don't get these big gas pains that feel like you're gonna die. Bowel movements is a really weird one because sometimes I'll take cheat days and I'll have a piece of sourdough or a burger and fries because I love them, and I really pay the price afterwards. but I'll come back onto the diet, and there will be, once I clear all that other shit out of my system, I won't shit for like 2 days. But then it gradually comes back, and it's just like, and you don't go as much, you don't have as much, coming out. I don't want to gross people out by getting into too much detail, but it is something to note because it's part of your life, and if you're seriously considering changing your diet and improving your life, you have to know as much as you can before you make an informed decision. So digestion really helps. It's actually, I hate to break it to some people that haven't heard it already, but it's actually fiber that is very hard to digest, which is fine if you're not eating like a ton of it. If you're not eating like fucking 2 heads of broccoli in a meal, by yourself, you're probably fine if you just keep a small portion. Portion control is big, but if you're eating predominantly meat and vegetables, you don't have to eat as much, and you get full quicker. And that energy, for most people, I'm not speaking for everybody here, but like I was saying earlier, I used to have to eat every 3 hours. Now it's like I could go 6 or 7 hours, and I'll be really hungry, but I won't be like, oh my god, I'm getting the shakes. I don't get the shakes anymore. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about with blood sugar. Hypoglycemia is something I've struggled with my whole life. And when I'm eating only meat and vegetables, no sugar at all, no processed carbohydrates at all, my hypoglycemia symptoms go away. There is nothing even remotely seeming like hypoglycemia. For those of you who don't know, it's low blood sugar, which you for people that are sensitive to sugar, you get this like spike in blood sugar, and then it drops way down, and you get the shakes. You start getting cold sweats. There was a while there, I had like 3 separate occasions where I actually collapsed because I passed out because of the low blood sugar. That goes completely away when I've cut sugar out. So good to know. Another thing, and these 2 points actually go together: sneaking trace amounts of sugar and dairy. So I've been playing around with the diet. I'm really working right now on trying to get a bit more stability in the diet. That's why I'm trying to go a little bit more strict for a whole month. But there are a lot of foods that have little bits of sugar in it, like sauces. This I still can't fucking pronounce it. It's hoisin sauce, and teriyaki sauce, and I think soy sauce has a little bit of sugar in it too. I will actually, if I'm working out a lot and I'm able to burn it off really well, I'll actually sneak a little bit of like a sauce in there just for flavor, because I love food. I have a channel where I cook things a lot, so I'm constantly improving my skills for cooking and stuff like that. So I feel that even for someone like me who is sensitive to sugar, but not so sensitive that if I eat any of it, that I'll go off the deep end for a month. I'll go into depression for a long time. But for some of us, especially those of us that want to lose weight or want to be healthy and want to have a good state of mind, blah blah blah. If you are not as affected or affected at all, really noticeably, which you probably are affected but you don't notice. That happens to be the case in a lot of occasions. You could sneak in a little bit, like, I guess sauces, like this video I made the other day. I mixed a little bit of this hoisin sauce and this teriyaki marinade, and I put it all together and with some butter and stuff, and I drizzled a little bit of it on my diced pork rib, and it was it was so good. But that's something, I guess, to take into account. Like, I drink a pretty good amount of milk, which has quite a bit of naturally occurring sugar in it. So that is another thing to take into account. Obviously, sugars in general are something that occur in nature. Sugars are what are part of the creation of plants, part of what makes a plant a plant. So as long as you're not overdoing it and you're not consuming too much processed carbohydrates like sugars, refined carbs, then that's where the inflammation starts. That's where your gut starts to attack itself, and it's just not good. And I attribute that mood stuff. There's actually studies coming out right now that I've heard that are attributing, because of the whole gut thing. The gut biome starts to, come from the lower intestine to the upper intestine, because it's looking for more sugar or something. I'm not well versed in this, but it causes inflammation because it's a different kind of enzyme or whatever. So basically your gut is becoming inflamed because shit's out of whack. Okay. Another point is it's a long process, very long process in most cases, and you have to know what your goals are. I think it took me a good 3 years to get to where I'm at today. It took me 1 year of a lot of struggle, and the weight didn't come off quickly at first. And it's not like I had a huge amount of weight on me. It's not like I was, 100 pounds, 200 pounds overweight like some people, like some of you sorry motherfuckers out there. But it takes time. And that's all right, because life it's a struggle forward no matter what you're doing. So if you're overweight, if you're sick, I'm just trying to help people. This is something. I'm not saying that anything that I'm saying is the gospel. I'm not saying that any of it is, to be taken in any kind of way, really. It's just me sharing my experience and maybe a little bit of advice to some people who are trying to come down a bit of the same road. But it's a long and arduous process, but seek out support systems and seek out people surround yourself with people that are concerned for your well-being, and not people that are saying that you're good the way you are, because none of us are. We're all human beings. We're trying to struggle forward, and you don't need people in your life that are gonna, that's another video. I already did a video about cutting people out that aren't doing anything for you. So another one of my Coffee Talk videos, if you want to check that out. It's called A Weakness, I think is the first word on it. You'll see it if you look in there. And also another thing is to be careful, because once you go tweaking with your diet, tweaking with your everyday life, like the whole being fat adapted thing, that shit it sucks at first, and it can put you in a weird place for a little bit. But once you struggle through it, once you get through that first few weeks, it's your quality of life. It's astronomical. It really is amazing. This kind of like mist that can just be lifted off of you, and you're like, oh my god, I can see the sky. I can acknowledge the needles on the pines, that kind of thing. I can feel the wind, these were all things that I'd been struggling with for a long time in a correlation with my diet and my alcohol use. So those things set me back a bit. So I've been running my mouth for 52 minutes here, but the main thing that I want to put out in this video is, for one, I'm not an expert. I'm not a health professional. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm nobody really. But these subjects, the diet, the treatment for depression particularly, and diet, the correlation between the two, is a very important subject to me, as I've said before. And I want people to, I know that there's about to be, I feel there's going to be a revolution when it comes to, I think it's already happening. I mean, people are noticing it through the popularity of the ketogenic diet. There's a bit of an awakening going on, and it's not going to be good for the pharmaceutical companies that sell stuff like antidepressants, antipsychotics, stuff like that. It's not going to be good for them. Not that those drugs don't have their place, and I think I'll talk more about that in another video. I think I'm going to do another video about suicide, and all that stuff, all that fun stuff. What was I saying? Yeah, basically I want to spread this message as well as I can, as articulated as I can. I know I'm not a very well-versed person. I don't have a large vocabulary. I'm not very smart, but I really want to actually help people with this, because it's a struggle that I went through, and it's a very scary and fucked up thing to be depressed, but also in turn be causing it for yourself by the things you're eating. This is something that nobody talks about. All the time that I went through therapy and I struggled and went through all these shitty psychologists that, half of them cried when I told my fucking story. What the fuck is all that about? They never covered diet. And reflecting back on it, it's so weird. It's so fucking weird. Because the shit that fuels you, it makes so much sense now that I've kind of figured it out. And this wasn't as much of a problem at all, even before, when people in general were impoverished and living on $1 a day, stuff like that, before the Industrial Revolution and all that stuff. Even during the early Industrial Revolution, it seems like after the depression of the early 20th century, introducing the mass production of processed carbohydrates to keep our society running, because there is the population after the baby boomers came around after the war. They had to figure out some way to feed everybody. It's perfectly understandable, but it's caused an epidemic of, for one, obesity. It's caused a mental health, a decline in mental health, I guess I should say. People not being fulfilled, men losing their testosterone, because it's another point that I've forgotten to make in the middle part of this video, is the increase in testosterone from cutting out processed carbohydrates. I haven't actually done any blood work or anything like that, but I mean, I can just tell my everything's working correctly. So a loss of this all kind of happened chronologically. When you introduce a high processed carbohydrate diet into the world, into the population, you see depression happening, and I feel that's partially attributed to depression, particularly in men, and women as well. Women, testosterone is part of the female body as well. That's something to really take into account, I guess. I hope I've covered everything. I don't think that I'm going to be covering everything in this video. I may even make a part 2 at some point, as I go along and do more research and come across more points that I want to talk about. But I think this is a good starting point. I mean, an hour-long video for this beginning of this kind of journey. And I think this coffee talk thing is more or less a podcast now. I better just face it. So I want to be doing this more often. I have things that I think about that I just need to say. I need to say to someone, and it doesn't exactly work at the personal level, because with this, at least I have the potential for a lot of reach. It's not like it's gonna go anywhere. I mean, most of my videos only get like 100 views, but still, 100 views, that's 100 times watched. That's probably 80 individuals. So as long as I can, help some people out, put some ideas in people's heads for maybe trying to improve their life, I mean, that's fucking awesome, if you ask me. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks again, everybody, for the support. I know this YouTube channel is kind of it's taking like just a very gradual incline, but I know that because it's YouTube and because of this little community that we have on YouTube, it works in a lot of fields, I guess I should say. It's if you have a very slow incline, that means you have real people, real fans, real I don't want to say fans, because I'm not really a person that's worthy of fans, but you have this slow incline, and you have there's a real people, real everyday people, maybe people that are a lot like you, and I think that's really cool that some people have even hit that button, because I've had such low self-esteem in my life, less lately, partially attributed to this diet, that I don't believe that people want to like me or whatever. That's just a low self-esteem thing. That's another video. Anyway, if you're just stumbling upon this video, welcome. And if you hit that subscribe button, welcome to the, welcome aboard the ship. It's a leaky vessel. There's a lot of degeneracy aboard, and maybe you might come out the other side without some bruises or some STDs. Anyway, I keep saying anyway. Have yourselves a great day, and I don't know. I'm enjoying the gradual incline of this channel. So until next time, keep your bitches out of the kitchen, and have yourselves a great fucking day and all that bullshit. And I'll talk to you later.